May I now ask Anna to convene the next theme, the second theme of this panel, and invite the next. May I now invite the two panelists. The first one, Mr. Stefan Bepler, and thanks a lot to all the panelists for your input.
And thank you. As Stefan is getting his slides up, I just want to lay the stage a bit for REDD, which is reducing carbon emissions from forest degradation and deforestation. REDD Plus is also a term that's used related to other aspects such as agriculture that are important in this equation. In the context of global climate change is hinged upon and somewhat dependent upon preserving existing forests, particularly those forests that are large carbon sinks. I'm not familiar with the most recent data, but somewhere in the order of a quarter to a third of all carbon emissions will hinge upon doing this alone. There are some success stories already out there. In fact, some of the only big global success stories in REDD Plus in Brazil, for example. But it is extremely complicated, and even in Brazil, where over a gigaton has been mitigated or prevented, and from emissions of greenhouse gases have been prevented by protecting the Amazon in Brazil, it's vulnerable to policy change, vulnerable to the international price of soybeans, vulnerable to changes in administration, illegal deforestation monitoring, etc. This is a very complex topic. It is always dynamic, it is not static, and it has to do with people who live there, who rely on the forests, who use them for their livelihoods, etc. So, Stefan.
May I also request
Julian Brewster
to join us on the panel?
And we're going to go with a similar format of 5 minutes. I'll ring a bell. We will hold questions until after both Stefan and Julian have given their presentations, and then we'll have some, 8 minutes. Thank you. Yes, 8 minutes. Correction, 8 minutes. I will reset my clock. Thank you, Dennis. And then we will have an open question and answer session for a bit.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Stefan from RECOFT in Bangkok. RECOFT is a regional organization, capacity building organization on community forestry and related issues. I'm going to talk about a new research project from us that's going to provide a lot of data related to what we're talking about, data on community forests and impacts on people in the communities actually. And we're using methodology that was developed by Imagery. Imagery is the International Forestry Resources and Institutions based in Michigan. And we're doing this research right now in Cambodia. So I'm going to talk a little bit about background on Imagery. This is an interdisciplinary international research network. They started in the early 90s. Right now they have 14 collaborating research centers which are affiliated to them using their methodology. And RECOFT became the 14th center partner in 2012, last year. So the goal is to create an international database of cross-national time series data on forests, people and institutions. The background of this is, as you see, it was established in the early 90s. It was way before the people start to implement REDD and REDD Plus projects. But the background of this research was to understand the causes and consequences of deforestation. To understand how local populations use their forest resources. And the idea, the background was behind that was that without this knowledge, policies can fail or lead to unintended or even negative effects. Goal is also to provide stakeholders, that means governments, local people, organizations, institutions, with a systematic set of findings about how people interact with forest resources at the community level. So for this reason, there is the collection of social and biophysical information to explain the sustainable use of forest resources, or also to explain when it's not sustainably used. There's also an analysis of interactions between the different groups, different actors that affect the forest conditions. Okay. So to systemize all of this, there is a common methodology to collect this data collection that is used in every site all over the world in many countries now. There is an extensive training before the people going actually to the field to make sure that everybody uses the same methodology and come up with the same format data that can be compared over time and place. This is designed to be repeated every, let's say, 4 to 5 years, so you can always come back to the same site again and collect the data again and compare the changes over time. And very important is also extensive reporting to the communities themselves and to the local government and government officials to make sure there is a participatory sharing of all these results. So the kind of data that is collected is about vegetation and ecological data, forest extent and the change over time, also formal governance arrangements, the people's activities in forests, organization of the forest users, and characteristics of users and their groups, and of course the benefits of the forest to the users. I'm going through this quite quickly. There are several forms, altogether 11 forms for the data to fill in, just to make sure that this data is comparable in different countries, different sites, and over the time. So it consists mainly at one side of 30 household surveys to talk with the people how they use the forest, how they benefit from the forest, and what they think how the forest management can be improved. There are actually forest plot measurements, selected plots, where you collect all this biophysical data. These sites, in our case, we plan to visit them up to every 2 years, probably, to evaluate the changes in this area. And as I said, very important is presentation and discussion of the findings with the community to explain that, and this can feed directly into their own community forest management plans. So for this reason, we also translate, of course, all the reports into the local language and share this with all people involved. The team consists of several people. There's a team leader, staff from RECOFT, and we have research assistant from a partner organization, the Learning Institute in Cambodia. We have a professional forester, and we have local people from the Community Forestry Management Committee and from the local forest administration. I mean, just the local government. So we plan to do this in 3 sites. Just very quickly, the first site is just finished last week, on the left side. And right now our team is at the second site in the middle. Just some basic data about this. I'm going to skip that now, about the first site. So what they're actually doing during the 2 weeks field visit, they're doing first the community mapping. So after explaining the whole research concept in detail to the community and make sure that they all understand what it's about, then a group of representatives are selected or invited to draw a map of their community. And this is the starting point to discuss the conditions in the community, the forest, the land uses, the perception that people have, and to identify also boundaries for the continuous interviews that will follow later. Then important is small group discussions with 6 to 8 people. The people should always come from different age groups, different professional backgrounds, and of course a mix of men and women. And this small group discussion will take place over the 2 weeks, almost every day, to make sure that as much as possible members of the community are involved in this process. Very important for this discussion is that the researchers don't come as formal interviewers. They will sit down with the people and make them feel it's like a discussion. So they have no interview sheet in their hand or a questionnaire or something. They just make some notes and do it like in very informal setting to make them comfortable and let them talk freely. The household survey is a bit different. This is more formalized. They have a questionnaire with 30 questions, very detailed, but the people can always skip questions if they don't feel comfortable. Then there's the forest data collection with the physical data, actually. Well, this is a very participatory process. That's really important that the team is living in the village, in the community for about 2 weeks, gaining the trust of the people, and this leads to sometimes very interesting results that a normal, let's say normal evaluator will not get if he just come for 2 or 3 days to the village. Because this team, actually they sleep with them in their houses, they eat with them, they drink with them, they play sport with them. So after a while they really gain their trust, and the people open up in the village. They talk about things that they normally not talk about. Okay, one thing was that from the 30 surveys, they do actually only 24 because they found out that the answers were almost the same everywhere, so they tried to focus on getting different opinions by changing the questions a little bit. Some lessons learned and challenges. First, the site selection is a challenge. We have limited resources in personnel and finances, so we just tried to do it in 4 sites. One we dropped because of the timing, actually. The composition of a team is very important to find good translators who are also comfortable to live in a village, who can assimilate with the people and living with them, and don't act like I'm only translating and doing nothing else, which was the case actually in this research, that the first translator has to be changed because she was not comfortable to living in the village and interact with the people. Also, a local forester is important, who knows actually local names of the species of the trees, because sometimes the people use their own language, their own local dialect, which is sometimes not understandable for others. And even more important, if you act with minorities, one more minute, okay. If you act with minorities, then it's even more a challenge to find a good translator. Timing, of course, is a problem. We plan 2 weeks per site, which is, I think, the absolute minimum. And adapting to the local lifestyle is sometimes also a challenge. Another challenge, compensation. People in the Community Forest Management Committee actually ask for money to do their normal job. So the question is always, should we pay them? Even if they benefit from this research, they do it for themselves, and they're supposed to do this job. Working with the government is also difficult. Sometimes they insist to join the meetings, the interviews, but then the people don't open up. They are afraid to speak. So we have to make sure sometimes to get the villagers alone. Same with the members of the Community Forest Management Committee. Sometimes they might be also involved in, let's say, activities that the villagers don't feel comfortable to talk about. So these are just in short time a few challenges we experienced after the first site. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Next we have Julian Brewster, who is the REDD Monitoring and Evaluation Officer with Pact Cambodia. And Julian is going to present a case study on how local community forest user groups are being engaged in monitoring of REDD plus forest carbon offset projects in the northwest Cambodian province of Otaminche. Is that how you say it? Otaminche. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for the introduction, and good morning, everybody. As Anna mentioned, today I'll be speaking about community monitoring and climate change, drawing from a case study of the Otaminche Community Forestry Red Cross project in Cambodia. And before I commence, I'd like to quickly acknowledge the co-authors of this presentation, whose names can be seen on the screen. So the project commenced in 2008 as the first REDD project in Cambodia, and is currently one of the most advanced in the region and the world. I guess, as Anna introduced earlier, where there's a carbon finance mechanism in which developing countries are compensated for the actions they take to reduce deforestation. So monitoring is a very key component of that, and it's very important. There's been a wide variety of project partners involved in this project, ranging from the local level up to the international level. The key goals of the project are obviously forest protection, also addressing local livelihoods and sequestering carbon, and a variety of project actions are implemented to achieve these ends, such as strengthening forest tenure, land tenure of the forest, and forest enforcement. There are multiple drivers of deforestation in this part of Cambodia, and actually for a while had the highest rate of deforestation in the country, and I guess some of these drivers include agricultural land expansion, illegal logging, for example. So this slide is an overview of the monitoring framework for the project. The information requirements for the project are very high, and there's a variety of methods that are used to collect data to conform to international standards, being the voluntary carbon standard and the climate communities and biodiversity standard. These involve a variety of both social and environmental assessments. This is an example of one of the monitoring tools used to assess deforestation, the satellite imagery. So the purple indicates deforestation and the green indicates forest cover. And from this, along with ground truthing biomass inventories, you can determine the amount of emissions that have been generated by the project. I guess the key rationale for using a community monitoring approach in this project was the existing community forestry model. There was a strong spirit of community forestry prior to the project commencing, so participation is an inherent part of community forestry, so building on that was seen to be but very important. And from the participatory MRV literature, there's a wide variety of benefits to community monitoring, such as improving data quality, greater utilisation of results, building capacity, improving forest governance, and then these are all very critical to the sustainability of the project, especially considering it's a 30-year project. So a variety of different steps have been taken to include communities in the all stages of the monitoring cycle, from project design, the design of the monitoring system to data collection, the analysis of data, and the use of the data generated. So I've got a few slides that demonstrate some photos of some of how these monitoring methods looked. This was a workshop in which the participatory MRV system was designed by community participants, so they developed a theory of change for the project and then decided how they would want to monitor these aspects. This is some data collection occurring, the biomass inventory and a patrol. We've also utilised the mobile monitoring tool, open source software called Frontline SMS, in which local communities can send in data through SMS reports, data on patrolling and illegal logging. So that's the real-time monitoring that's improved efficiency, and we've held workshops in which project data is shared back with communities to see what they make of it, how it could be of use to them, and they've developed action plans around that data. I'm going to talk quickly about some of the challenges in utilising this approach to monitoring a REDD project. I guess a key challenge is the complexity of MRV systems and the very formalised information requirements that are largely being driven at the higher level. Multilateral agencies, international NGOs are sort of driving the agenda. So this can really preclude the involvement of local communities, and that's made building ownership quite a challenge in that. Sometimes people can feel excluded in the processes that are occurring. Another challenge is sort of the implicit knowledge that communities may have. So, for example, they have a great spatial knowledge of what's occurring in the forest, such as illegal activities, but they don't necessarily value the importance or the need to document that through GPS coordinates. Or so I guess there's some challenges, and also the motivation and volunteer burnout due to the indirect benefits of this monitoring. So far, REDD credits haven't been sold, so perhaps the relevance of communities going into the forest to measure the size of trees is not really valued just yet when they face other more practical day-to-day challenges such as illegal logging. I guess, yeah, ensuring data quality and consistency and accountability across all sites, because it's a mosaic project with 13 different forestry sites. Data quality and its consistency is a key sort of issue that needs to be monitored. And yeah, gender's been also a bit of a challenge in that, you know, there's a perception that monitoring is men's work, so engaging more women in these tasks requires, yeah, more training and more focus, and also, yeah, the availability of time that community members have to conduct monitoring. Another challenge is also how to measure the impacts of this approach. So, for example, measuring how to measure ownership, empowerment, and, you know, the benefits that this approach has provided. It can be hard to measure and it would take time. I've got a few quick lessons learned. A key lesson is that there is a great potential for communities to play a key role in MRV processes, and that, you know, in order for this to occur properly, there's an important need to situate this in a larger system of support. So ensuring there is, you know, land tenure, ensuring that there's local governance structures in place, such as forest management committees, ensuring, you know, technical and local capacity is built up over time, and this requires significant resources early on, training, coaching. And I think this, over time, that will definitely generate more, you know, resources going to the local level, rather than, you know, having external consultants come in and do these assessments. So the benefits will be shown. Also, yeah, being flexible and responsive to the local situation, the local interpretation of you know, the different monitoring needs, and terminology and language used is very complex. So being able to adapt that to the local context is very important. Another, yeah, regarding ownership, I guess it's a very iterative process. It needs to be deliberate effort to develop capacity and confidence, and ensure, you know, data is valued and used at the local level. Supporting existing structures and local leadership is an important part of that. Regarding gender, yeah, there needs to be special attention to ensure there's a role for women, such as quotas, training. For example, we've helped the community select two monitors from each community group, one of which is a woman, so that's, you know, starting to challenge some of the beliefs around, you know, women's role in monitoring. The use of technology has been a bit of a learning curve also. There's a bit of a perception that technology will fix all, but it needs to be, I think, utilised quite cautiously, because, yeah, there's some data quality and some issues that can arise from that. And yeah, the importance of sharing data back, that's been a key lesson learned, and, you know, to help the community with adaptive planning that can build trust and transparency in the whole system. And lastly, I guess, due to the fact that REDD Plus is such an emerging and dynamic field, there's an important need to be able to share lessons learned and you know, develop platforms where people can access you know, latest sort of findings from pilots. I think Sea Change could definitely play a role in that.
Thank you both. Thank you. Okay, well, we are just about out of time, as you can imagine. We started late, and so we've given short shrift a bit to Stefan and Julian. I would like to say that they have pointed out some very similar challenges. This is very complicated, if not complex, situation with multiple stakeholders. There's a high need for technology, and local context and local ownership of these projects ends up being actually not only indispensable, but crucial for long-term success of these REDD Plus projects, but also very hard to get at and to really build that local sort of support and ownership. So I just want to say thank you to both of you, and I think, do we have 1 minute? 1 minute. So if we have, go ahead, sir. We'll have one question, and you were the first one with your hands up, so go ahead. Do we need a microphone? Does anyone have?
That's fine, that's fine. Thank you for your presentation.
Stand up. Please stand up. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I am curious about two projects that two presenters had made. The first point is about community forest plans. So when we evaluate the projects, there is a process that between the registration process between the government and community forests, and there's a plan which is have to follow the process of the government, which how we understand how this plan has been approved and how the community itself follow up after the plan has been approved by the government. Also, the second point is talk about recently there is a statement from the political components of the opponent of the government as well as the government itself that a number of the forest activists have been killed. The restrictions of the people from talking honestly from their own experience. For example, when we ask people about the real situation of the problem, people would not say what is exactly happened. So this is one point that we have to acknowledge as well.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Actually, I skipped this slide, showed it very quick. There is a formalized process in Cambodia to formalize this community forestry. There are 7 steps. Most of the projects that we are supporting are at step 6 already. That means they are formalized, but the community forest management plan is not yet done. So, but most of them, we support a couple of them. They are in the process of doing the management plan right now. And for our research, we just actually selected only villages who are approved already, legalized already. The other question is actually in our research, we found out that people talk openly, and we found out many things they will not normally talk about, but I cannot mention that here. And because it was only one village right now, so and the government was involved, so it's a bit sensitive.
Thank you, Stefan. And I noted, your earlier point about eating and drinking together, and to bring out the truth. So it's always good to build that as part of the process. So all the power to you. I'm just reminded of we had a very good presentations with both the presenters and the ones before. I'm reminded of an anecdote when Thomas Alva Edison was working on the incandescent bulb. He was trying to find the right material for the filament. And he had been working on it for more than a year or something. And so somebody asked him that you've been working on this thing for such a long time, you still haven't found the answer? You still don't know what works for the filament? He says, yes, but I know 700 things which don't work. And that's knowledge as well. So I think we've talked about various challenges and things. So just quick word of thanks to Sea Change for organizing this panel, to all the panelists and all the participants who came here. And as I said, we would try and find a table by the poolside at the lunchtime. So for those of you who want to continue discussing, more than happy to join.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you to the chair of the panel and the co-chair and our last 2 presenters. I'm sorry that we went a bit late. You can open the doors now for the ladies and the gentlemen of the gender session. Because gender is equally important, I think, as climate change mitigation. So I'm apologizing for both sessions that we run into one another, but I thank you for your time and your interest in this session. Thank you.